It's worth pausing here to consider what strength is not. This is not definitive by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it's somewhat helpful to detach certain ideas from strength, from this word strength, because I've noticed quite a bit of fairly unhelpful ways of conceptualizing what it means to be strong these days. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of interesting ways of holding, strong leadership, for example. The way we're seeing things creep into the way organizations, the way governments are led, the way people are being encouraged in some circles to position themselves in relationships, in social groups, in communities and families, and how they think about other people, how they think about themselves, and what they think they need to do in order to assert themselves or have put themselves in a position of influence, or whatever it might be. Strength is not domination, power and control. It's an important point to make here that positions and dominions of authority and influence require strong people. When we think about organisations and governments and whatever it is, they require strong people, but they don't require people who want to dominate, overpower and coercively control other people or the entity that they're in charge of, or part of the hierarchy within. This is a really important distinction. Abusing a position of power is not a sign of strength, it's a sign of weakness, an inability to hold responsibility with the required respect and reverence. There's sometimes a paradox when it comes to power, which I think Douglas Adams summed up when he said, "It's a well-known fact that those people who must want to rule people are ipso facto those least suited to do it." I think the word must there is important, must want. It's about the person who cannot live without ruling. It's a person who has no real strong self-concept unless they are exerting influence, exerting domination over people. It's not the person who puts themselves forward to lead after, deliberation and counsel from trusted advisors and a lot of thought and reflection. It's like, I think I might be the right person to do this. Or I'm happy to put myself in that position, but not because I have no sense of self-respect unless I'm fully controlling other people. But in so many areas of our world, those who must want to rule people end up doing it. We've got a lot of structures where that is still the kind of, it invites those people to take over. So domination, overpowering, coercive control, manipulation, they're weaknesses, but they're sometimes disguised or talked of or thought of as strengths. Characteristics include ridiculing. They make people feel unsafe and guarded. It's not okay to make mistakes because you're going to be ridiculed, you're going to be humiliated, probably in front of a lot of other people. They abuse trust. They'll go back on things they've said in private. They might be happy to throw people under the bus. Often they'll make sure that, the other person has made their statement first. They'll go in and undermine that. They're often unable to hide envy, and they have an inability to handle other people's successes, unable to hide the resentment at other people's successes, a strange ability to take something that somebody else has done well as a personal insult to them. And so there's also this victim mindset and a utopian way of holding the world. They turn life's natural contradictions and the differences between us, the natural conflicts that arise because we all see the world differently. We all have different ways of thinking about things. They are unable to hold those contradictions. They turn that into oppositional thinking and enemy making. Their focus is on changing or removing other people rather than on changing themselves or adapting their view or of just holding the contradiction in place. They're unable to articulate a positive future a lot of the time. Outside of the eradication or the elimination of the enemy, those who lead through domination and control, I find it hard to create a positive vision of how they want things to be, how they imagine things could be. When encouraged to articulate, how would you like things to improve? What would a better vision in the future look like? They'll often avoid answering. They might be like, well, what's the point? It's impossible anyway, because people like that are wanting to ruin it for the rest of us. And so then it just comes back to this same old repetitive sort of scapegoating mechanism of there's no point in thinking about the future until we get rid of those people. That utopian future is in the shadow of this group that we need to eliminate. They see everything as a game, as a struggle for power, for domination, power, control, manipulation. These are all signs of a game player, somebody who sees everything as zero sum. It's a battle to be won or lost. They use language like that. The thing that every conversation they have, somebody wins, somebody loses. And they're probably most threatened by people who just refuse to play. And they lack self-awareness. So like being unable or unwilling to change themselves, they often refuse to look at the common denominator in the repeated issues that they seem to encounter all the time. You might hear the person say, I can't, why is everyone such an idiot? Why does the same thing keep happening to me? But that question won't be in an effort to raise awareness about themselves. Like, why does this keep happening to me? I need to sort of really reflect on, what am I doing here that means this keeps happening? No, that's not what they're doing. It's in an effort to find someone to blame, or even humanity as a whole, because it's like everybody else is the problem. If it wasn't for people, then I would be happy. So this is not strength, because it doesn't allow for strength to grow. True strength is really the capacity to change. It's the capacity to morph, to grow, to develop. As we're going to get onto a little bit more shortly, weakness is remaining rigid and brittle when we need to be flexible, when we need to allow ourselves to be moved by the forces around us. That's, strength is the ability to get stronger